For more on the situation in Syria and rising tensions this week between Syria and Israel, I'm joined by Matt RJ Brodsky, Policy Director at the Jewish Policy Center here in Washington, D.C. What do you make of the latest news?
The latest news with regards to Israel and Syria is they'll be ratcheting up some tension, but Israel has two red lines when it comes to Syria, and they've been very explicit about that. And that is, they will not allow the transfer of any advanced weaponry to Hezbollah or the acquisition of those weapons by Jabhat al-Nusra or al-Qaeda-linked terrorist groups that are currently operating in Syria. So they've acted to make sure that those weapons aren't transferred. There are two main suppliers for weapons in Syria. You have Iran, and they're the ones supplying Fatah 110 missiles, the surface-to-surface missiles, offensive capabilities, and Russia, who is supplying SA-17s, and hopefully, according to Syria, hopefully would be providing them the S-300 air defense system. So,
well, let me ask you about this. This is such a fragile tinderbox.
Absolutely.
These strikes by Israeli forces, does that stir it up? Are they stirring it up in a sense?
Well, what Israel is doing beyond what we're getting in the headlines is they're essentially changing the game, the rules of the game. Essentially, Israel has seen all these weapons pouring into Hezbollah after the 2006 summer war that they had between Hezbollah and Israel when they were fighting in Lebanon. So they have seen all the restocking of the weapons. So now Hezbollah has far more weapons than it did in 2006, which is contrary to UN Security Council Resolution 1701. They've been unable to do anything about that. They can point it out. They pointed it out to the international community, to the UN, all of whom do nothing. So at this point, Israel had made clear to Syria, again, that they are not going to allow their red line to be crossed, which is these advanced weapon systems making their way to Hezbollah. So in Syria's interest, incidentally, since Hezbollah is so heavily embedded now within the Syrian army, the Assad government regime army, this is kind of the quid pro quo from Iran. Iran is the one that mainly supports Hezbollah. They're the ones backing Syria and the Assad regime. And so Syria, what Syria has to do, I would say, for Hezbollah to be fighting alongside them is to transfer those kind of weapons, because this is Iran's covering its own end, making sure that those weapons are still in theater should Assad fall.
Let me ask you about John Kerry's efforts to get talks going. Do you think that's going to lead to much?
No, I don't think so. And it's an interesting thing that American policy since August 2011 was for President Assad to step aside, according to President Obama. So when he went to Russia on May 7th, and he's meeting with Putin, he walks away with a summit that's going to happen in June. And that summit is doesn't say that Assad needs to step down. So already he's walking back American foreign policy. Before that happens is what is happening on Wednesday, the Friends of Syria gathering. Now, opposition groups are already boycotting it because they're protesting that America isn't supplying them with any weapons. The Senate measure that you were mentioning may help loosen that system so that they can start getting some weapons that are to opposition groups that are vetted. But there's little reason to think that after 80,000 have been slaughtered, 94,000 according to Lebanese sources, that there's going to be any solution that allows for Assad to be still ruling.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Matt, you always have thoughts on this. Thanks so much for coming in and joining us this evening.